Welcome to Dynamics Corner Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on October 19th, 2023. Chris, here we are. Summit, day 3. Everyone's trying to squeeze into the window.
Yeah, that's all right. These are the important ones.
But today we have some amazing guests to talk to us about their experiences at Community Summit. With us today we have Søren, Kenny, and Alexander.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate you taking your time from your busy schedule. I know you're all busy, and because I see you running around, talking with lots of users, doing some wonderful presentations. So I'm humbled to have you take the time to speak with us. So when we get started, can you tell us a little bit, Alexander, what has your take been on the conference so far?
I already have the best things I took because I got valuable feedback from my roundtable. I wanted to validate my design with users, and this is something really important for me. And everything after that can be without. So this is good enough.
No,
I
that's
think it's important for the listeners to know Aleksandar a little bit more, because in my opinion, Aleksandar is an unsung hero among the Business Central product group. Imagine one person who needs to take care of all legal requirements in the world, spanning from US taxes to regulatory features in Denmark to whatever they need in Switzerland of weird barcodes. Like all of that is him.
Wow.
Can you imagine
wow,
that?
that is a lot. So with that,
Only 21 countries. That's okay.
only 21 countries. I know here in the United States, we have a lot of regulatory requirements for a lot of areas. So even just one country alone could be a lot of work. But with that, we had the opportunity to speak with Søren and Kenny before. This is your first time with us. Could you take the moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe expand a little bit on what Kenny had mentioned?
Yes, okay. As Kenny mentioned, I'm responsible for regulatory features in our 21 localizations and in the W1 in the base app. So I'm actually trying to delocalize as more as possible. My final idea would be to have only one base app for all countries, and I'm really trying to do this. I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know when, but the idea is to remove everything what is local for base app. And I mentioned I got this really good feedback yesterday, actually, when I had 2 days ago when I had my session. This is about 1099. This is one of the most complicated things I need to deliver. An idea is to move it out from base app to redesign to make this extension. So doing this in two different ways. Some countries will delocalize country by country, but for much more complicated localizations, idea is to delocalize it feature by feature. So in one moment it will not be so complicated to do it. And this is in general what I'm doing.
No, that's great. There's definitely
Maybe something for a full new episode for you if you want to dive into.
I definitely would like to have dive into a new episode, and I'll take the moment to tell you that I would love to see those mugs that you had in your advertising.
Yes, I have one here more. So this
No.
is not so expensive to print in my country, so I can prepare a lot of them and make them
Over here, but I saw those mugs and I thought those were great. But no, I definitely would like to speak more with you about the regulatory requirements for Business Central, because in the conversations I have with many users and other partners, some of the concerns and questions that are raised are about what are the regulatory
Yes.
features or what regulatory agencies will accept the use of Business Central, because that is a fear for some is, my data is in the cloud. I mean, and I'm not saying Business Central can't handle it, but what's the messaging to give to someone who asks so that they have the comfort that their data does meet regulatory requirements and the processing, because 1099s, like anything in the United States, sounds so simple, but it's so complex because there's many different versions, variations, and hopefully we could go, you want one base app? I would like one simple tax. It's makes things a lot easier.
great, but in some another life.
Not over here. Everybody wants a piece of the pie when it comes to taxes. So everybody wants their little piece of that. So don't be one. Kenny, how about yourself? What has been your highlight of the conference so far? Here we are, day 3.
Yeah, still reflecting, but a few things. I came here to talk about reporting and data analytics and BI as seen from the end users. I'm normally I mean, we talked about this. I live in the basement, and they drag me out to get a little bit of sunlight.
Yes, yes.
So, but this is where I can actually interact with people, real people using the product. So that was why I was here. But then I learned something different. I learned that lots of people, at least at this conference, are actually acting as their own partners, customers who act as their own partners. And that was news to me that the proportion, at least for this conference, I could be biased on bias or survivorship bias, but that I had this idea that whatever we do to scale the product has to go through partners. And it seems like I need to revise this a little bit, that the way we evangelize, the way we communicate cannot only be done through the partner channel, but also needs to be at least approachable and accessible by a different audience that maybe is hiding somewhere. I don't know. So that was interesting for me. I'll take back and reflect on that.
That is true, and it's a very valid point because I had come across that here as well, and I've been seeing that trend. I think with Business Central now, with the ease of extending, for example, from the development environment, you no longer need to have the development license for online development. Visual Studio Code is free, and the AL language is free, and at this point, you're not paying for the object, so it allows the opportunity for customers to have in-house development or in-house extension and maybe work with the partners for the more complicated or more complex solutions. So it is becoming there is a big shift where it used to be the partners, these are my customers, and I work with these customers and I'm the sole one that works with them, to now where the customers, like you said, they can manage their projects and they will work with partners, maybe for this partner for one piece, this partner for another piece,
like this.
or maybe hiring independent consultant for another piece. It's been a big shift of what I've seen here in the United States. So
and I think for me personally, for the reporting part, a big part of the reporting strategy that I'm talking about at the PCLE and also here is that the world is changing. The world is changing with reporting exactly in the sense that customers do more and more self-service, so more and more load on no code for reporting. And therefore the partner role needs to change here as well. Changing from, will you build me a report? No. No, what do you want to, what do you need to achieve? And then me as a partner, what are the building blocks or the AL objects, artifacts I need to produce for you or with you to unblock you. And then from there on, the customer takes it and do their own thing.
That is a great strategy, and I see, like you had said, the dynamic between the relationship is changing. It has been changing, and now I think with the product, it supports that change, which is great. Mr. Søren, how are you doing, sir?
Good.
Here we are, day 3. Thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with us on day 1. So now we have to get you a catch up
Always a
between
pleasure.
day 2 and day 3.
Yeah.
How do you feel after 3 days of this?
Yeah. Same reflections as Kenny just mentioned. Like speaking to users is just give us a different kind of feedback than when we get it through partners. So that's just awesome in itself. Another reflection is because we've been meeting so many people saying, hey, how do I do this in BC, or can BC do this? And where our first reaction would be, oh, but we have that described already. That's on documentation side. So one thing we can go think about is when we think we've made something clear and communicate to the world just by publishing it on our documentation, that's not enough. Like, that doesn't mean people will find it automatically. Like, what happens from there on? How do we spread the word? How do we boost it? How do we make people see that? So that's just something that we can go and think about in our teams and say, okay, because that's a way to scale as well. Describe something very well, both in terms of capabilities, but also how to do. How do we make sure people find that? There's a product entry to that, but that's also just getting people to know about it. Like, great example was today, like we have an article that says, here are 8 things you would do in GP. This is how you do it in BC. And there are small videos that shows you. Not many people apparently know that page exists on our documentation site.
I've never heard of that
No.
page.
And not even for partners who work with GP to BC migration, which means we completely failed in that, right? Søren and I and Alexander, we joke about this. when this happens, because it happens, we joke that we are throwing things over the wall. Like we're building something and then we're throwing it over and we hope someone's catching it. Right?
True, true.
And maybe we can do better there on our evangelizing, and we should not stop until every single partner tells us, please stop telling us about these stock changes we already know. Maybe then we'll stop.
I don't think you'll get to that point. I think you get someone who may say there's too much, but that's not a bad point, because having that information, in my opinion, from how I looked at it, I think it's new. All of this documentation is new because for a very long time, it really didn't have a lot of information. It had the customer number is the number that, the customer number is the value of the number of the customer. But now I have seen more big shift in the past year or so to where that documentation has been being filled out and has also been contributed to by the community being partners and customers. Therefore, I think it will take a little bit of time for that adoption of this new communication means of spreading the documentation. So I agree with you. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, because that will raise awareness for it, and eventually it will be adopted. And it would be a great place for, as you see here, customers doing more on their own as well. So for the customers to be able to be successful with the implementations, it's not only just the partners who have the knowledge of years and years of experience.
Spot on. Yeah, spot on.
So we appreciate that. So with the regulatory requirements and your sessions, what has the feedback been from the community?
This time, it will not be about regulatory requirements, but general idea was about 1099 redesign. This is what I delivered, and actually, I tried to make some mixture between a regular session, breakout session, and roundtable. I wanted to present what we have, what I have as a plan, how to deliver it, and then to open discussion to see, what is the feedback, how people are looking at that. And especially when we mentioned, maybe even Copilot in taxes, and people say, what? Why not?
Don't let the
Why not?
IRS hear that.
Okay, it doesn't mean we will deliver this, especially not in a few months, but there is some chances we can even do this. We can make it easier life for people. Okay, not when the times come to report, but earlier when they prepare invoices, system can check if your IRS code is proper or not based on description you are providing. So there are many things we can improve. And the idea is, if we redesign, don't look last century model of redesigning. Let's look in advance. Okay, copilots, AI, maybe we will not deliver immediately, but let's take a look there. So it will be minimum AI driven tax reporting.
No, I think that would be beneficial, because AI, to me, a lot of people talk about AI and they may fault the AI for the results it gives or for what it does, but I look at AI as a tool to make things easier for you. I say over and over, a carpenter has a hammer and they have an air gun to bang the nails. What tool does that carpenter need for the job that they're doing to be successful? So it's a matter of how do you leverage that tool to work with or come up with your solution and be successful. So I'm interested in seeing more and more with AI and how AI can be positioned. I know it's not part of Business Central. I always talk about the development. That's sort of just because it's dear and near to me, along with the functional aspect. But even having GitHub Copilot within VS Code for AL development, I've noticed a big increase in performance myself. So it doesn't do everything correctly, but it will give me a good start or a good help to develop solutions. And I demonstrated that in one of the sessions that I had for everybody, how it created basically a math code unit for me with just a couple keystrokes. So it was nice.
It's impressive, by the way, seeing that in action.
Yes. I sometimes just let it go. So as far as the reporting, what other direct feedback have you heard from the users with the reporting? I know that you came and you have some reflection on what you saw, but can you give some examples of some direct feedback that you received?
Yeah, I had a session on Excel layouts on Tuesday, and presenting full room. Half of them were users, half of them were partners. I think 5% knew about Excel layouts, which is kind of
Wow.
That's
Right.
crazy to me.
That is crazy.
But it proves also to me that it matters to come here and still evangelize and still getting people from the community to be interested in talking about these things and learning. And so I'm not giving up. It's just keep pushing, because yeah.
Well, one of your favorite, my favorite quotes of yours is the one bite at a time. How do you eat the elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time. And I think the same thing as we talked about with getting that out there. And it is tough sometimes. I tried to keep up with all the latest news out of passion, out of necessity, in a sense. So I'm familiar with all this. But as you had mentioned, sometimes not everybody has the same opportunity.
Yeah.
So what is the best way to get and distribute the information so that everybody can absorb it and be made aware of it?
And I have something there, because since we talked about, like last episode, we talked about Business Central launch events,
Correct.
BCLE, right? I then had some conversations with people online where they told me, look, none of my colleagues are on social media. And the way I communicate, and Søren and Alex, is through LinkedIn, Twitter, and so on. And if people are not there, then we're completely missing out. So for this conference, we printed out flyers to hand out that the Business Central launch event exists. And hopefully, maybe that will kind of spread the word, and we'll take it from there.
Great. I think that is a great way, and it's also verbally, because in my sessions we had individuals ask, and I had mentioned, go to the BCLE, it's recorded, register, and you'll be able to see the recording, which is good.
Well, Kenny, one more feedback you didn't mention. You have the most sweet feature you created, analyzes view.
Oh yeah, that's true. Analyze data.
It was analyzing sweet.
Yeah.
It was.
But that's
the
something.
word. Yeah, this is really.
When people see that, and any users seeing the analyze data feature, they go, "Oh, that's nice," and not like it's nice. It looks nice, but I want that. I want it now.
I have and receive the same feedback. I will tell you the first question that I get, and you may know what the first question is from everybody that I've demonstrated that to. How does it work with a lot of data? And when you pivot and you're taking fields on a large data set, how can I pivot those efficiently?
I had the same question. I had the same question during my session too.
Right. Yeah. You want to answer?
If you can, yeah.
Yeah. But we changed the data loading model for it from client side to server side. Yeah, Alex is on his way. He's presenting in a few
No,
minutes.
thank you.
So we're changing the way we load data from client side to server side. So we can load any size of data now.
Okay, it seems like we have a lot of people coming into the session. Søren, do you have anything you would like to add to the conversation?
Yeah, just want to add also another thing that I've thought about. So I had 2 sessions on presenting setup tips, and I had a fear coming into those sessions that people would just know anything. They would know everything. What I learned in speaking to both users and partners in those sessions was there's really no thing that is too basic. Like we can, like even that we come from a sort of inside out view, and we think, oh, people surely they know how to do this, or surely they know that setting. And often when we talk to partners, they do, but there are so many people in this community that have never seen settings. Maybe they just don't work with them in their daily life. It just goes to show that we can come here and present stuff that we think is basic, but it will be well received.
I was surprised by that because we just talked about that during the session. I'd asked a question about a feature in Business Central, and they're like, raise your hand. One person raised their hand out of 30.
Yep.
That's surprising because I thought it was basic. I thought you'd know it, but to your point,
Yeah.
We can't think that way. There's a lot of new.
Because what's basic for you is not
Exactly.
for your friend, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope that by attending this conference, you were able to get some valuable information and see the value of having these customer-driven conferences. The tagline here is it's for customers by customers, which is important because it is a different subset of the ecosystem that can share valuable information for the actual use of it. So again, thank you very much for taking the time to speak.
Thank you.
It seems that the session's about to start. We appreciate it.
Sorry,
Thanks for having
Alexander.
us.
No, sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Alexander. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris, for for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.